The locker room was silent except for the rhythmic drip of a leaky faucet and the faint hum of the air conditioning. The air smelled of sweat, detergent, and the lingering traces of cologne from earlier practice. My skin was still warm from the drills, the burn in my legs a dull reminder of the sprints coach had made us do before letting us go. I exhaled, rolling my shoulders as I reached for my bag. The rest of the guys had already filtered out, their laughter echoing down the hallway, fading into the distance. It wasn't unusual for me to be the last one here. I liked the solitude, the brief moment of peace before heading home. I stripped off my jersey, the fabric sticking slightly to my skin before I tossed it onto the bench beside me. The cool air hit my back, making me shiver slightly as I reached down to untie my shoes. Just then, I heard it. A sound. Soft. Barely noticeable over the hum of the AC. But it was there. A presence. I straightened, my muscles tensing instinctively. The door to the locker room was still slightly ajar, just as I had left it. I glanced around, scanning the rows of metal lockers and the dimly lit corners. Nothing. Shaking off the unease, I went back to unlacing my shoes. I was probably just being paranoid. It was late. I was tired. My mind was playing tricks on me. But then, footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. My breath caught in my throat. Before I could turn around, a voice cut through the stillness. Deep. Familiar. You're still here. I swallowed hard, my fingers frozen on my laces as I looked up. Coach stood at the entrance, his expression unreadable. And suddenly, I wasn't sure if I was more nervous about the unexpected company, or the way my heart had just started pounding in my chest. Coach's gaze lingered for a moment too long, his broad frame silhouetted against the dim light from the hallway. My pulse quickened, though I wasn't sure why. It wasn't unusual for him to check in on us after practice. He took his job seriously, always the last to leave, making sure the locker room was empty before locking up. But tonight felt different. I forced a casual shrug. Yeah, just taking my time. His lips pressed into a thin line as he stepped inside, the door clicking shut behind him. The sound sent a strange ripple through me, an awareness of the isolation, the quiet. Just the two of us now. He strode forward, his movements unhurried, his presence commanding even in silence. I straightened, trying to suppress the sudden wave of nerves creeping up my spine. You worked hard today, he said finally, voice low, measured. I noticed. I swallowed, nodding, trying to keep up. He chuckled softly, a sound that felt more intimate than it should have in the empty space. He walked past me, heading toward the far row of lockers, but I caught the way his eyes flicked toward me in the mirror's reflection. I looked away quickly, focusing on my half-untied shoes as I willed my heart to steady. There was no reason to be on edge. No reason at all. I tugged the second shoe loose, kicking them both off before standing. My body still felt overheated from practice, and a thin sheen of sweat clung to my skin. I reached for my towel, wiping the back of my neck as I moved toward my locker. Coach remained silent behind me, the air between us thick with something unspoken. You remind me of myself, he said suddenly. I hesitated, turning slightly. How? He leaned against the lockers, arms crossed over his chest. The way you push yourself. The way you don't quit, even when it hurts. His eyes held mine for a beat before drifting down briefly, so briefly I almost convinced myself I imagined it. That kind of drive. It's rare. I exhaled, unsure of what to say. Compliments from him weren't uncommon, but this felt different. More personal. I tried to ignore the warmth spreading through my chest, the way his words curled around something deep inside me. He moved then, stepping closer, his presence unmistakable. You good? He asked, softer this time. Yeah, I said quickly, voice a little too tight. Just tired. He nodded, but he didn't step back. The air between us felt electric, charged with something I couldn't quite name. I could feel the heat radiating from him, the faint scent of his cologne mixing with the remnants of sweat and soap. Every nerve in my body was suddenly on high alert. I turned back to my locker, trying to regain some semblance of normalcy. The metal felt cool under my fingertips as I twisted the lock, focusing on the simple action. One number. Then another. Then a hand on my shoulder. I froze. Not heavy, not forceful. Just there. Steady. Warm. My breath caught in my throat, my mind suddenly blank. I felt his fingers flex slightly, the slightest pressure against my skin. A test. A question. I didn't move. His voice was barely above a whisper. You sure? I turned my head just enough to meet his gaze. There was something unreadable in his expression, something hovering between concern and something else. Something dangerous. My pulse roared in my ears, my body locked in place. I should say something. Move. Laugh it off. But I didn't. The silence stretched. His thumb brushed lightly, almost absently, over my shoulder before he finally dropped his hand, stepping back. The absence of his touch sent a shiver down my spine, a confusing mix of relief and something I couldn't name. I exhaled sharply, inhaling again just as quickly, my chest tight. Coach cleared his throat. I should, he gestured toward the door, his voice gruffer now, almost strained. Lock up. I nodded, grabbing my bag with slightly unsteady hands. Yeah, of course. I moved past him quickly, feeling his eyes on me as I went. The door felt heavier than usual as I pushed it open, the cool hallway air hitting my face like a splash of water. My mind raced, replaying the moment over and over, searching for meaning, for certainty. I didn't find it. I didn't want to look back. I told myself not to. But as I stepped into the hallway, my feet slowed. The locker room door was still slightly ajar, and through the sliver of space, I saw him standing there, unmoving. His head was tilted downward, hands on his hips, as if steadying himself. Something about his stance felt off, strained, like he was holding something back. I should have kept walking. I should have let the moment die right there. Instead, I hesitated. And then, as if sensing it, he lifted his head and met my gaze through the crack in the door. Neither of us moved. For a second, there was nothing, just the distant hum of the hallway lights, the faint dripping of a faucet somewhere deep in the locker room. Then, slowly, his fingers flexed at his sides, curling into fists before releasing. I swallowed hard. Coach, I started, but my voice barely came out. The door creaked open a little more, just enough for him to take a slow step forward. Stay a second, he said. Not an order. Not quite a request. My breath was shallow, my pulse hammering in my ears. I had no reason to stay, no excuse, no obligation. But I didn't move. He shifted back into the room, his silhouette framed by the dim fluorescent lighting. The air was thick, charged with something I couldn't put a name to. I took a single step back inside, just enough for the door to ease shut behind me. I told myself I should break the silence, make some joke, shake this off. But the weight of his gaze held me there. His jaw tightened, his shoulders squared, but there was something else in his eyes, something guarded, like he was at war with himself. He exhaled, low and deep. You feel it too, don't you? The words slammed into me like a punch to the chest. My stomach twisted, my hands clenched at my sides. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. His expression didn't change, but his fingers twitched again, like he wanted to reach for something but didn't dare. The space between us felt impossibly small now, the silence pressing in on all sides. I couldn't breathe. I needed to say something, anything, but my thoughts were a tangled mess, caught between instinct and confusion, fear and something darker. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed, his voice rough when he finally spoke again. This isn't right, he murmured, more to himself than to me. The words should have snapped me out of it, should have grounded me, but they only made my stomach sink further. Because I knew, deep down, that he wasn't saying it to stop himself. He was saying it because he was already too close to the edge. My heartbeat thundered. He was watching me too carefully now, waiting for something, permission, denial, anything to tip the scales. I took a shaky step back. I should. His breath hitched. Just for a second. But I caught it. He closed his eyes briefly, like he was trying to regain control. When he opened them again, something had shifted. His jaw tightened, his posture stiffened. He took a deliberate step back, exhaling sharply through his nose. Go, he said, barely above a whisper. I didn't move right away. Not because I wanted to stay, but because part of me needed to understand what had just happened. What almost happened. The air between us still crackled with something unspoken, something that hadn't died even as he put distance between us. His hands flexed at his sides again, his breathing unsteady. I turned, forcing my legs to move, my mind still reeling. I reached for the door, but before I pushed it open, I glanced back one last time. He was still there, still watching. And in his eyes, I saw it. A question. An apology. A warning. I stepped into the hallway without another word, my chest tight, my stomach churning. The door shut behind me, but I knew, as I walked away, that this moment wasn't over. Not even close. I barely remembered the walk home. My mind replayed the last few minutes in an endless loop, dissecting every glance, every hesitation, every unspoken word. The cool night air did nothing to clear my head, it only sharpened the awareness still prickling beneath my skin. I shouldn't have stayed. I shouldn't have let it get that far. But now that it had, there was no undoing it. The moment had lodged itself deep inside me, impossible to ignore, impossible to explain. My skin still tingled where his hand had almost, barely, touched me. His voice still echoed in my head, rough and uncertain, the weight of his words pressing into my chest. This isn't right. So why did it feel like a door had been cracked open, rather than shut? I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, the ghost of that moment curling around me like smoke. My body was exhausted, but my mind refused to settle. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the way he had looked at me, like he was waiting for something. Like he was afraid of what would happen if he got it. Morning came too soon, dragging me back into the world before I was ready. At school, everything felt too loud, too bright. I moved through the day in a fog, barely registering the conversations around me. And then, practice. I told myself it would be fine. I told myself I was imagining things. That we could just pretend nothing had happened. But the moment I stepped into the gym, I felt it. His presence. He was talking to another coach across the court, his back partially turned, but it didn't matter. I felt him there like a pulse, steady and undeniable. My stomach clenched. Then he turned, mid-conversation, and our eyes met. A split second. No more. But it was enough. The way his jaw tensed. The way his gaze flickered, sharp and uncertain. The way he forced himself to look away too quickly, like breaking contact would erase the weight of what had passed between us. It didn't. For the rest of practice, I felt him everywhere. His voice, his presence, his movements. He kept his distance, his focus sharp and professional, but it was forced. I could tell. His instructions were clipped, his tone controlled to the point of being unnatural. When I ran drills, I felt his gaze linger a second too long before shifting away. When he corrected someone's form, I caught the stiffness in his posture, the restraint in his voice. And when practice ended, when everyone else started packing up, I hesitated. Would he say something? Would I? I stole a glance in his direction, but he was already turned away, already moving toward his office without so much as a glance back. The door shut behind him, and just like that, the air in the gym shifted. It was over. For now. But something told me this silence wouldn't last forever. I took my time in the locker room, waiting. For what? I didn't know. Maybe for my heartbeat to slow. Maybe for the weight in my chest to ease. Maybe for some kind of sign that I wasn't the only one who felt like something had changed. But the room stayed silent, empty except for the occasional drip of a leaky faucet. I should leave. Go home. Act like nothing was different. But as I zipped up my bag and turned toward the door, I heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. My breath hitched. The door didn't open right away. Whoever was on the other side hesitated, just long enough to make my stomach twist. Then, finally, it creaked open. Coach. He stood there, silhouetted by the dim hallway light, his face unreadable. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence stretched, thick with everything unsaid. Then, quietly, he stepped inside and let the door close behind him. I swallowed hard, gripping my bag tighter. Did you forget something? I asked, my voice too casual, too forced. His jaw tightened. He exhaled slowly, running a hand over his face before finally meeting my eyes. We need to talk. My fingers curled around the strap of my bag, my pulse roaring in my ears. I knew I should say something. Act normal. Keep the walls up. But the way he was looking at me, like there was something he couldn't hold back anymore, made it impossible to pretend. The air between us crackled. The door was shut. The room was empty. And I had no idea what was about to happen next.